Hi, everyone. Welcome to the podcast, Practical Product Management. Me and Marilyn hanging out. We're going to talk about the practical side of product management today. So I think what we thought would be a good topic for today is psychological safety and product management and how those two things come together. What do you think, Marilyn?
I think that's an awesome topic.
So why don't we start by talking about what it is? Is that a
Yeah.
good place to start?
Yeah, that's exactly where we should start.
Okay. So what I know about psychological safety, most of it I learned, I would say, from Amy Edmondson, the Harvard professor who writes books on those kinds of topics, leadership topics, and one of them is called Fearless Organization. And she talks a lot about the concept of psychological safety being, within the construct of a team environment. As a leader, you want teams that feel like there is never a chance that they're going to be humiliated or overtly criticized for sharing their opinion, saying they made a mistake, or, just saying like, hey, I disagree. Like that there shouldn't be humiliation and fear tied to having a point of view, right? And she talks a lot in the book about Project Aristotle, which was done at Google. They did a 2-year study, 250 elements and 180 teams. And what they came back with, what they were trying to figure out is like, what would make our teams at Google more productive and effective, and how could we get more delivery out of them? And what they found was the number one thing that those 180 teams, 250 elements found over 2 years was they needed psychological safety and trust was the thing that would help them be kick-ass at delivery, which is interesting, right?
Yes. Note for everybody listening, because every place I've worked, people are like, how do we get more out of our teams? And they're like, they do things like, let's track velocity, which, so FYI, don't ever do that. It doesn't work. You're about to kill your teams. Please stop. So the number one thing, Leah, just to reiterate what you just said, the number one thing is psychological safety.
I'll tell you what the 5 things are really quickly. I'm going to read them from a list, so I'm going to look away. But number 1 was psychological safety. Team members feel safe to take risks and be vulnerable in front of each other. Number 2 was dependability. Team members get things done on time and meet Google's high bar for excellence. Number 3 is structure and clarity. Team members have clear roles, plans, and goals. Number 4 was meaning. Work is personally important to team members. And number 5 was impact. Team members think their work matters and creates change. And again, this was 250 attributes were studied across 2 years, 180 teams, and the year was 2012. So it's been a little while. But ultimately, psychological safety and trust were the top of what you needed to create things, make things happen.
To build software or to make teams, I guess it doesn't really matter what you're doing.
Yeah,
I just,
exactly.
So that really tracks for me. I will tell you when my teams have performed the worst is when there's politics, when there's backstabbing, when they feel like they have to protect themselves from their peers and the people around them, or they're like their constituents or their stakeholders. Like, and personally, I feel the same way. Like, it's really disempowering to feel like you have to protect yourself from the people that you're supposed to be like working with to achieve a common goal. Like, companies don't typically set their teams up to fight each other, except for maybe Microsoft, based on that one org chart meme that goes around.
Right. It's true. It's true. And the question I would have there is like, I don't think most of companies don't intentionally set things up for that purpose, but sometimes there can be sort of an undercurrent of competition or acceptable bad behavior or just things that quite frankly just degrade the safety, right? So maybe you start out safe and you intend safe, and then you start to sort of chip away at safe, right?
Yeah.
And you lean, I think, from my perspective, like when you lean away from feeling safe, you lean towards fear,
Yes.
right? And I don't know about you, but I don't think fear is the best motivator for innovation.
I don't think it's the best motivator ever.
For anything, right? Right,
Like,
right,
if you don't do, I'm gonna tell dad.
right. That doesn't work as a kid. It's not great as an adult.
No.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally, I mean, I think there is It's such a responsibility of leaders in general to say, we can hear anybody can have an opinion. It doesn't matter if your opinion differs from mine. But I think when it comes to product managers, man, it goes back to what we talked about in a past episode. Like, if you come rolling in with like, I'm right, this is how we're doing everything, there is no alternative view, you'll crush the safety in your team, don't you think?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I think that, also, you have a lot of blind spots when you roll in like that.
Yeah.
And what happens is you're going to build a shitty product
Yes.
because you do not have, I always tell my product managers, like, listen, everybody in the team, everybody you can get your hands on is your board of directors. Like, you're not the CEO, but now you have a big board of directors.
Yes.
Yeah, you're gonna actually sort of like guide where the ship goes. But if you don't have people being like, well, hey, there's a rock over here, or I've seen this, or your idea is great, but it could use some tweaking, like,
Right.
you're missing out on a whole host of information,
Yeah.
and you're going to have terrible product market fit.
Yeah. Because I mean, it's very natural and I think easy for us when we are product people, especially, to be like, I have a position, I have a perspective, and this is where we're headed, right? And the minute you shut the voices out and say, this is it, you miss the opportunity for other perspectives to come in and make you go, oh yeah, okay, I might have missed that.
Yeah.
That perspective is missing, right? Because we all just it's narrow. No matter how wide you try to be in terms of coming to a problem, we all have you're bringing your views. These are the eyes I look through. So
Exactly right. I mean, we're human, so we're inherently biased.
yeah, yeah,
So let's think back about some of the best teams we've been a part of,
yes,
and we're going to talk about this in terms of product management and leadership.
yeah,
How do you lead or how do you lead and foster a safe culture?
yeah.
What do you think? Now that we've established that it's going to make you better as a team, and you're going to build better products, you're going to go faster, you're going to be more efficient.
Yeah.
What is the foundation for psychological safety, in your opinion?
I mean, I think you really have to be able to have no holds barred, open conversation, right? And I mean that's my first thought to that. Like I just think there's this need to be able to be vulnerable,
Yep.
right? And say I'm gonna take a risk and say this thing that maybe everyone else will be like, "What are you crazy?" I mean, the number of times in my life and career I've heard, "What are you crazy?" is significant. So either it was said or it was like a look. I mean, that happens. Um, and and even if you risk getting your feelings hurt, being willing to say, I need to say this.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I 100% agree. And I think that it takes a little bit of mutual respect. I think that you said it really well. There's a common vision. We all know what we're going after.
Yeah.
We all understand that every player is necessary on the field to reach
Yeah.
our goal. So we all have this common mission and vision. We're all necessary, and we all understand our roles in
Yeah.
this game. And we respect the people we're on the field with. And sometimes that means you get to know people on a personal level, or at least you sort of like, vulnerability is hard when you first meet someone.
Yeah.
And so how do you like lower the barriers enough so that you can have vulnerability?
Yeah.
I also think that just from some challenges, I'm curious. I'm going to watch your face when I say this because sometimes the tone needs to be set from the top down.
Sure.
Like there is an expectation that we're going to be open, honest, vulnerable. We're not going to be punitive. We're not going to
Right.
lead by fear. We're not going to like knee jerk into things. We don't tolerate assholes.
Right. Right. 100%. Like I I think the one of the things that has always gotten me in trouble is that I 100% believe in disagree and commit.
Yep.
And other people say they believe in disagree and commit.
I mean,
I actually believe in disagree and commit.
They believe in disagree, just not the commit part.
Right. Or if they're the, if they're the final decision maker, maybe they're the founder, maybe they're whatever, right? They are like, no, no, I believe in agree and commit. And they can't quite get over the fact that you disagree with them, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm the kind of person that's like, listen, I disagree, but if that's what you want to do, let's do it. Like, well, no, but I want you to agree. Well, then I'm not going to.
Then that's what we're going.
Like, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
I don't agree. I think it's a mistake, but I've said what I've said, and now I'm ready to move on. Right? And I used to tell my teams, like when I was leading teams, I would say, disagree and commit looks like I have had my say. I have spoken. I have told you why I disagree. I've said what I think the consequences of that are. And now we're deciding, and I will now move heaven and earth to make it work.
So I love this because I have 100% experience this with you.
Yeah.
I remember times when, like, we just flat out disagreed, and you told me probably exactly those
And
words.
you're wrong, right?
And I was like, "Cool." At the end, you're either gonna laugh in my face, or you're gonna be like, "Huh."
Look at that. That worked. Right?
Exactly right.
And I really believe that when you do that well,
Yeah.
the other person feels you behind them holding their back.
Yeah.
Right?
I never once felt like after that conversation with you that you were going to take me down.
I'm going to sabotage you.
No,
It's like,
you
no.
were literally trying to help us get to a common goal. Um,
Absolutely.
I mean, if I remember right, somewhere in the middle of that thing, we ended up both being right, which is weird.
Yeah,
Um,
it happens. Right?
Yeah, but I think just because, we were able to have the open conversations, there was a psychological
Yeah.
safety. We were able to be completely open and honest with each other, and you know, as you move through a problem space, it gets complex. Things change. All right, let's talk about what else have you seen is necessary?
So I think going back to one thing you said, like I don't think we can overstate the importance of a strategic vision.
Yeah,
Not just a vision, not just oh, this is what we want to be. Like all the startups in the world can say we want to be a global company that does this thing and we want to launch in the I don't care. Congrats. Good for
cool.
you. It's a good idea.
We're gonna double revenue.
Yeah. Awesome. Where? How? What are you going to do? When are you going to do it? What's it going to look like? What's it going to be? So for me, the strategic part of that is important. Like, where are we today? What do we intend to do? What are we trying to do? And what are we going to do to get there? What are the milestones, the activities, the things, right?
Yeah.
And then moving into the tactics, right? But the strategic vision has to be there and everybody has to get on board.
Yeah,
Right? And then everybody has to start singing the same hymnal, as they would say, right? Like we're all singing the same song. And and it has to start like you have to start really chugging away at that vision. And the rule is you have to say it 7 times before people hear it. So you need to say it 7 times. And maybe 12, right? Depending on where you're at. But I think
exactly.
that is key. Because the minute someone else in the team, as a product manager, I know like the team needed to know where we were going, where I thought we were going, that we had to be on the same page. That's where we're going. Yes, we all agree, right? If the minute that there was somebody on the team that was like, I don't want to go there, or I think that's the wrong place to go. After we'd agreed, now we have to come back and negotiate again,
Yeah.
right? Or at least be like, no, 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 get on board. This is what we're doing, right? Because that person or people can start to degrade progress.
Yeah.
And so it's a
Yeah.
constant, repetitive action, right?
Yeah. So let's talk about then, let's bring this back to product management.
Yeah.
What do you think that psychological safety looks like in product management? And why is it important in our sort of role at all? I feel like I'm interviewing you
I
today.
know. I'm like, this is fun. Usually it's me doing the other way around. It's kind of fun. I'm gonna turn this around on you eventually. I'm gonna slide a question in.
Coming. It's coming.
No, I think what comes to mind when you ask that question is a real commitment to honesty and to walking the talk
Yeah.
on the to the stakeholders, to your management team, and to your team. And this ability to not have a different story in any place. And I think if the team begins to believe that you will tell the truth radically, no matter what, they will start to believe you. And when they start to believe you, they will start to trust you.
Yeah.
And I think that for me has always been really essential, that I would say, listen, I'm going to go take a bullet for this team. I better understand what we're doing. Right. Or whatever, like I will absolutely stand in front of whatever's coming for this whole team, but I need to understand how we got here.
Yeah.
Right. So that truth telling in every direction, the team, it's like the old adage, like if they'll do it to you, they'll do it with you. If they'll do it with you, they'll do it to you. Right.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel with my team. I'm going to tell you the truth always.
Yeah.
And you can trust that when I walk out the door and go talk to our boss, I'm going to tell him the truth too, or her the truth too.
Yeah. Yeah. Same message. They're not worried you're going to say something else when the door shuts.
Yes. Yeah.
I think the one thing I tend to be very transparent with my teams.
Yeah.
I will tell them almost everything, and when I can't tell them something, I tell them I can't tell them
Right.
something,
Right.
because I believe humans need context.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And they'll, like, if they're bought into the mission and the vision, they're here for the team. We have a good working environment. They will make magical things happen.
Yes. Yes.
But they need context. What you
Yeah.
cannot do is tell people that, like, revenue's great and then lay people off with no context.
Right.
You can't tell them, Europe is the only focus, and then 2 weeks later say Europe's not a focus. They need to understand the why, and they'll follow you
Yeah.
anywhere.
Totally. Totally. I'm curious what you think the role is of, like, the personal side as a product manager. Like, where does being a human come into play?
Yeah. Jeez. I mean, for so long, I thought that I needed to be like a grown up or a professional. And I felt like you had to, like, put on a persona and, like, be super polished and fabulous. And I'll tell you, that version of me is not as successful as the version of me that brings a lot of myself to work.
Yeah.
Um, I have cried in the office. I'm still horrified by it, but, like, it is really what, my lived experience. I talk about my family. I have people that have, like, chosen to work for me in the past that have become great friends.
Yeah.
But it is still, at the end of the day, like, we both have a role to play in the
Yeah.
company. And sometimes I'm going to need to kick your ass,
Right.
but not because I'm a jackass, but
Right.
because your success is our success.
Yes.
Right? And if
Right.
I let you fail, if I've hired you into a team and put you in a role and I let you fail,
Yeah.
then I'm also failing.
Yeah.
And sometimes we have that conversation, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you unfortunately get in the position where you have to let someone go for one reason or another. It's not the right fit for the team.
Right.
And you do it with enough humility and empathy to know that, it's not punitive. It is something that can happen to me.
Yeah.
Um,
Totally.
but yeah, I bring all of this. I bring all of this to work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
No, and I think,
Now,
having worked with you, I know that, right? And it's actually, I think it was a big influence for me to be like, I could actually just not try to be something I'm not. I could just show up and be me, right? And I think there's an element of, as a leader, as a product manager for sure, and then definitely as a leader, where I really wanted to be a product manager on a team where the team could bring their whole person to the conversation.
yeah,
And if you were struggling in some area, then, oh, you know what? We'll cover that. You need
yes,
you need some space. So let's slide over. Everybody slide over. We're taking that space, right?
yeah,
Including me, right? And I think that ability to be like, I'm gonna lead the whole person, even when I'm letting them go.
yeah,
I'm gonna lead you, right? I'm gonna have done everything I could do to make it work,
yeah,
right? But if it's not working, it's not working, and it's not good for you either.
But I have found that people are never surprised.
No.
If you've been a good leader the whole time,
Right.
usually the person on the other side is like,
Yeah.
relieved to
Yeah.
some extent.
Yeah, totally. And I think the
Now,
same thing is true in a product team. When things are going badly, the team's not really surprised when you show up and go, "Guys,
what the
this
hell?
isn't gonna. What the hell? What are we gonna do? This isn't.
Clearly, I'm
We're not
meaner
gonna
than you.
make it."
You're
Right?
like, guys, let's come together. And I'm like, what the hell?
What? Yeah. Right. No, totally. And I think there's an interesting, like, I think that person who shows up, the me, the you that shows up even when things are tough, that's what they expect because they've gotten to know me.
Yeah,
When I get real quiet and real still, the team's like, "Uh-oh,
it's not a good
what's
thing.
what's happening?" Right?
It's not a good thing.
What's happening? What's going on? We need to ask her what's going on. So I think what we've decided is that psychological safety is essential. That it requires communication and vulnerability.
Yep,
That it requires us to bring our whole person.
the whole person.
Anything else that we decided it requires?
Well, and from a product management perspective, that means listening and not being a jerk. And you're not the the only person with an opinion that matters.
Yeah.
And how do you bring humility and respect and kindness to your peers, and everybody in your circle?
Yeah. And I think my closing thought is as a product manager, if you can't do that, do a different job.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Go do something else because this
No.
job is just going to hurt.
Right. It's going to hurt you. It's going to hurt them. And
Yeah.
I mean, over the years, I don't know about you, I know I'm sidelining a little bit, but over the years, I have met engineering partners, engineering leaders who have a really bad taste in their mouth for product management. And when I've poked at it, they're like, "Well, I haven't worked for one that I felt good about." And I'm like, "That's not good."
No.
What do you mean? Right? And then as we unpack it, I'm like, "Oh, yeah, you didn't." Right? Like that was the wrong personality for that team you were on, right? Or whatever. And so like I said, if that's not you, if you're not interested in being the person who builds that, do something else. There's
Yeah.
plenty of other opportunities. This is not yours. So
Nope.
it takes a
Do you,
takes a certain kind of person.
it 100% does. So like super interested to hear from everybody that listens to us about what you think about psychological safety. What do you see that improves it? Do you agree with us? Do you disagree with us? What are we missing?
Yep.
And what do you see that kills it? Like start the conversation, my friends.
Absolutely. And I'll also dump the Project Aristotle information into the resourcing. So under our episode banner on our website, there's a little resource space. And for each episode, when we share resources, you can find documents, images, things we've shared. So
That's where all the magic lives, huh,
all
Leah?
the magic.
All
So
the magic.
if you go there, get the document, read it, and then leave us comments about how psychological safety shows up for you. So, yay. Till next time.
Bye.
Bye.